Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think there's only one male so far. Good afternoon. Welcome to another Lunch and Learn as it relates to using 21st century technology in our teaching and learning and carrying out our different activities. My name is Michelle Stewart McCoy. I am the faculty educational developer with responsibility for educational technologies. And I'll be taking you through the whole matter of how we can use QR codes in engaging with our students. With me, as usual, is Mr. Dominic Williams. Dominic, could you just a word or two, please? Open your camera and say hi.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dominic, and I'll be here assisting throughout the session.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dominic. Now, we I'm gonna share my screen so that you can see it. You should be seeing now. I have my usual disclaimers. Please call me Michelle. It's more of a conversation than it is one-way dissemination of information. So we are encouraging conversation. So if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. You can raise your hand. Just signal to us, Mr. Williams. King Dominic will be checking. My name is Michelle. Please call me Michelle and indicate in the chat or just open your mic and let me know if it's okay for me to use your first name. Okay. And then I'm using two screens. So at any point, my presentation will be on the second screen. So anytime I look up, simply because I'm looking at the second monitor. All right. And that is why Dominic will be helping us with the chat and with identifying if your hand is raised. All right, so I'm going to start my presentation so that we can begin. So we're looking at the whole matter of scan to learn using QR codes and how we can use it as an AR, augmenting reality in a light version. And I've already done the introduction. So we're going to look at how we can use QR codes in the classroom. We're going to look at how we can create a very basic activity, but we'll share some ideas of how you can actually use the codes. And then we're going to look at how we generate these codes. So in creating the activity, we will also be generating these QR codes so that you can use them. And then we're going to look at different ways that we can open or read the QR codes. And this, of course, you will share with your students so they too can be aware. Now, before we go into what it is, what it looks like, how it works, I'm sure you would have seen flyers and posters with QR codes that you're expected to scan. And most of us, I think, are relatively familiar with using QR codes. A quick show of hands. How many of us have used a QR code, or we have seen them, but how many of us have actually scanned a QR code? You can quickly raise your hands. Okay, so I see. All right, nice, nice. So you're familiar with the idea of QR codes. Now, I tend to use as my sample a course called Game-Based Learning in the Caribbean. It's fictitious. It really does not exist as yet, but I use it for my demonstration purposes. And so what I had set up, well, even before I click on that to show you, one of the things that I had set up in teaching my course is that for this particular class, I want to teach my students about the different player types. All right. So there are different theories and concepts about the different types of players that exist when we play games. And so for this particular session, I have already had my lecture with my students and I want them to do some independent work. So I shared with them this setup. It's a museum type setup where they get to delve a little bit more into game-based learning in the Caribbean, focusing on Bartle player types. All right. So what I have done here is that I have set it up as a museum. It is something that I would put on the VLE so that my students can access it there, or I could have set it up so that they click on a link and they go to a page. So this is what I have shared with my students, and I have given them instructions that now that we have gone through the lecture, I want them to go through, and there are activities that I want them to do. So they're going to engage in some activities, and there is no set way of doing this. All we know is that they're supposed to go through, and then they're supposed to collect a particular activity card based on their battle. Now, what I'm inviting you to do very quickly is, if you have your smartphone, and anybody can do this, just scan one or two of the things and then you'll tell me what has happened for you. So I'm sharing one file with my students. It's about game-based playing in game-based learning in the Caribbean, and I'm focusing this lesson on Bartle player types because I want my students to identify the different player types. I want them to engage in a particular quiz so that they can determine their player type, and I want them to actually play a game. So um, anybody, you can just pull up your phone, hold it up towards the screen, it will work. All right. And then as soon as you, I mean, you can click on all of them to see what happens, or you can click on one. And then I'd love for you to share with me a little bit of information. All right. So I'm giving us 2 minutes to explore. A quick 2 minutes. Another minute. So for those who are just joining, we want you to use your phone. So you can just pull out your phone, open the camera, and scan your QR code, and then we'll just talk about it a little bit before we continue. 30 seconds. Ten seconds. All right, time. I call it. Did anybody scan? So this is where we're gonna talk. Open your mics and talk to me. Did anybody scan any of the QR codes?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and
It is quite interactive.
mhm. What did you scan?
Scan to play the game.
Oh, you scanned to play the game. Did anybody scan the video where it says scan to watch a video?
Yes, I did. The video is quite interesting. I was only
Did
able
any?
to watch. I wanted to scan all three, so I was only able to just be based on what I saw so far. It is quite interesting, and I'm going to definitely go back to watch it to look at the different types of the
Oh,
Bartlett's different
the
types of player style. But
okay.
yeah,
Did anybody scan the quiz? No? All right, let's talk a little bit about what just happened. All right, within your teaching and learning scenario, do you see something like this working for your student? You have a particular lesson that you want to teach. What I have done is that I have taught an entire lesson in just this one thing. I've set it up like a museum. I could set it up like it's done as self as an independent work or self-paced. The students go through at their own pace, and they click on they scan the respective codes so that they can learn more information. And so this is one of the beautiful things about, oh, let me close this, about using QR codes. Now, QR codes QR codes actually means quick response. So the Q and the R in QR codes mean quick response. And essentially, QR codes are the square bar. Well, it's a square. So the barcodes tend to be rectangular in shape. Once it is a square, it's usually a QR code, and it contains information that is read. And so the information that is read may be in text form, as you would have seen if you clicked on the quiz, maybe an audio message if you had set that up. It could be video, as you would have known if you had selected, if you had scanned the QR code for the video. It can be images, it can be a series, it can be a folder, so if you link it to like a Google Drive or a OneDrive folder, it can be a series of documents. And so it provides information for students. It provides students with information and engagement, not just providing them with resources or reading. Depending on what you do, you can actually have them very engaged. Now, one of the things we had said is that we would show you how QR codes could work like augmented reality. And I want to call it the light version of AR. What QR codes do is that they sort of simulate a form of augmented reality. Augmented reality can be very expensive um, and requires quite a bit of setting up. But what QR codes do is that they provide us as facilitators with a very low, cheap, easy to implement version of what AR could work in the sense that it overlays. So how exactly does it do that? So one, it connects the physical spaces to the digital content. So if you have your face-to-face class and you set up a QR code, student can access this information digitally or online. So what it does is that it overlays the digital content, and the students are in the classroom or at home and they're accessing this information. The other thing that it does is that it allows this static information now to become something that's a little bit dynamic, if you want to use that term. It becomes interactive. You have interactive touch points. So within the museum that you just looked at, I can scan something and then the video pops up, okay, making it almost, well, not almost, multimedia. So it brings that kind of text to information. Um, you can have a poster that you embed a video explanation in. You can have a map that you have an audio tour in. You can have the museum that's a setup where you can have several things. So I have a quiz, I have a video, I have a game that my students can engage with. And then the third thing about the similarities between using your QR codes and setting up something like similar to AR is that the phone is the viewing device. So in augmented reality, the phone is used or the phone or a mobile device is usually the carrier. It allows the students to view what is going on. So the QR codes work in the same way. The code acts as a marker and the camera detects that marker and the phone loads it so that the students can see. So when we're working out our information today, think of it as the poor man's version of AR, augmented reality. If we look at what I just did in using that museum concept, you can use QR codes for so many different things in the classroom. You can use it to give students access to feedback that you give them. You can showcase students' work. Of course, you have to think about the privacy behind it. So you remove students' name and probably just use the ID numbers or initials. You can provide students with sample. We tend to say that one way of giving students good feedback is to also give them samples. And so you can use a QR code when you're giving feedback. If you actually have a physical document that students get, or even a digital document, and you're giving feedback, just put a QR code that can point them to where they could find additional information or a video that explains it simpler or that sort of thing. We can use the QR code for study guides. So you may want to say to them, okay, here I'm providing you some study guides, questions, notes, resources that you can engage it. Instead of you printing several or sending several emails or so forth, you simply put one QR code up and the students can access that. You can link to different resources and activities as you saw just now. And it facilitates what we call differentiated instruction, because it means that you're meeting students who prefer listening, those who want to read, those who prefers to see the images and so forth. So when you use a QR code or different QR codes, you can actually facilitate these different learning styles and learning preferences in your classroom. You can use it for scavenger hunts. You can use it to add gamified elements to your classroom. So you may decide to set up badges. So if the student carry out something and they see that QR code, they can tell them, give them that kind of information to say, congratulations, you have done this, or you're at this level, and so forth. You can use a QR code to do a quick poll in class to find out how far the students are, whether or not everybody's okay. So there's so many different things once you do that link that you can use the QR codes for. I haven't left anybody behind, have I? Is everybody still with me? All right, great. Now, how do we generate QR codes? There are different places that we can go. And I have listed three popular ones, but there are so many others. And when we are going to create our basic activity, I will show you um, one of them. We'll use the first one, the QR code monkey, and how we can generate the code, what the interface looks like, and so forth. So these are three common ones that you can use, but we're going to focus on QR code monkey. Now, the important part about us is that as facilitators, our thing is to ensure that we have learning content that the students engage with, that the students use to show us how well they're doing. And in setting up something that uses QR code, there are four basic steps. Okay, so the first one is that we either select the content that we're going to use, or we create the content. So you create your activity, create your resources, or if you have them already, you put them together to ensure that you can easily access them. All right. Then you find the code generator that you're going to use. You set it up, you test it, always test it, and then you share it with the students. All right. So those are the basic steps. So let's talk about them a little bit more. All right. So if you're going to be using QR codes with the students, you want to keep it simple. So for each, you want to have something that is just a simple action that the student would have to do. So they watch a video, or they do the quiz, or they play the game, as you would have seen from the setup that I started. So each QR code should really have just one action. So ask yourself, okay, for this particular class that I'm setting up, do I want my students to watch the video? Do I want the students to listen to an audio clip? Do I want them to complete a quiz? Do I want them to do a survey? Do I want them to read a document and then demonstrate something? So don't give the students too much information when you're thinking about your activity, your resources, and so forth. Don't give them a website that they have to be going through different parts of the website. Ensure that you highlight at the page that you want them to focus on, that sort of thing. All right. If you can trim videos, so if you have a video that is 30 minutes long, but you only want them to watch 10 minutes, if you have the kind of software that you can trim, you trim it. Okay. Or you put instructions on the the content to say watch only, when you're telling your students about this, watch only minute 1 to minute 4. All right, so something like that. And whatever it is that you're doing when it comes onto the content, whether it's resources or activities, remember, it has to support your learning outcome. So whatever it is your learning objectives were, the activity must clearly reflect that. Okay, so that is one of the first things. And then you put all the information together. So if it's that you want to send them to our website, you open the web page so that you can get the link. If it's that you want them to go to a Google Drive, you ensure that you have the Google Drive, you put the files there and you have the Google Drive open so that they can access, so you can get the link, all right? Because in generating the QR code for websites or site content that requires the URL, that is the website address, you will need to copy that Zalta link. All right. So after you have done all of that and you have all your resources together and you make sure that it does align with the learning outcome, you then open your QR code generator and you generate your codes. Now, when you generate your codes, you have to name them. I think every time you generate a code, it just a QR code. So you'll have to ensure that you name it so that you know which QR code refers to which activity or which content that you want. And then you test it. So when you download your QR code, you just test it, and you can test it by using the phone. The phone is one of the mobile device is one of the most popular ways, because you just open your camera or scan it. But there are other ways. You may have a QR code app. You may have a reader, the software on your laptop. You can also use that. The important thing is that you test it by scanning it. And then, of course, you share it with your students. You may want to share it by putting it in the Moodle platform or VLE, or you may want to share it by putting it, sending them a link. Whatever it is, you then share it with your students. All right. So let us see how exactly we do this. Oh, oops. So let us create one. I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute. Um, this is what you need to stop sharing, Michelle. All right, so I'm gonna let us create something together very quickly, and I'm actually gonna use this setup that I have here. All right, um, so I'm gonna remove my QR codes. So what I did, oops, there isn't a QR code there. All right. So what's the first thing that I did was I made sure that I went to the video. So let me open a video. So I'm gonna go to the Bartle player types and I go to videos and I search for the video that I want. So this was the one that I shared with you. So I'll simply click on it and I'll keep it open so that I can copy the URL because I'm going to need the URL. The other thing that I wanted that I'll do a quick search for is I wanted the quiz. So Bartle player type quiz. So what I do is that I look for it, and this is another link. And let us say that the third thing that I want, I'm going to open a folder in Google Drive. I want the students to access a document. So this is new. So let me just see if I can find something. Let me create a folder and put something in there. So let me just create a new folder and or a new file. Let me upload a file. Uh, I'm just going to find any file and upload it. The role of chatbots in education. So let's upload that. I know nothing with game based, but I'm gonna upload that file because that is the file that I want the students to access. It's R, so I'm gonna look for RMNOP It says that it's uploaded, so why am I not seeing it? R. Here we are. All right, now this is what I want to get. So I'm going to right click, select share because I want the students to access this file. And so I have to ensure that the settings are set up well in my drive so that any student can access it. It's taking a little while because the internet is also dragging. Let's try that again. Okay, so I don't want it to be restricted. I want anyone with the link, and then I can copy the link. All right, so I can copy the link from now. It means that it's the first thing that I would have to set up. The next thing that I want to do, so I have all the files that I need. I have the role, the document that I want the students to read. I have the test that I want them to do, and I have the video that I want them to watch. So now I'm going to open QR code monkey, QR code monkey. And this is what the site looks like. So this is the QR code site where you would come. And because what we have are links, we are interested in the URL, but you notice that there are different other things that you can do. You can put text and it creates a QR code for it. You can have an email, you can have so many different things. So we're focusing on the URL because we have links. So the first thing you would do is that you would paste your link here. So I just copied the document in Google Drive and I have pasted it here. Over here, you can make, most QR codes are just black, but you can actually set colors on this one. So you can decide if you want a color gradient. And I usually use color gradients because the gradients tend to give it that little oomph. All right, so I have selected the color that I want and I am happy with this. This is all you need to do, and then you come over here and click on create QR code. So once you click QR code, you notice that you see the color, it's a gradient. So it starts with black and then it comes on into that color. So you can use any one of the colors that you want. The important thing is that the information is captured, is layered in. So, and then you're going to click on download PNG. This message will come up to say that do not refresh or close it. The QR code is being generated. So we'll wait a little bit. All right, and there it is. It says QR code, but I want AI reading. So this will help me to know which QR code this is. Okay, and I do the same thing for the others. So I can close this. Um, and I can close this now. So this is my Barto test. I copy this and I go back to QR code and I simply paste it here and double check to make sure you actually bring it across. I may want to keep the same color so that it looks like it belongs to a suite. So I leave the color. I click on create QR code and every time you do this, it gets a little easier. Then I click on PNG, download, and I wait again. All right, so I'm just waiting a little bit. And then for this one, I'm gonna call it the quiz QR code. All right, so you notice that I have all my QR codes in my folder and they have the names that make it easy for me. Then I go back to my document. Now I'm using a PowerPoint, but this could be a Word document. It could be a Word document that you then save as a PDF. It could be an Excel sheet. It could be anything. So I'm using a PowerPoint. So what I do now is that I go and I go insert picture because it is a picture. And I go from this device and then I go to my desktop where I have my folder and here they are. All right. So if I click video, okay, I think it's gonna come here and resize it. You don't want to make it too small because the students are going to have to hold their phones up or their devices to scan. So you make sure that it is large enough. All right. And then let me just another one in. Time I'm going to put the resource. All right, so let me put this one in. And I'm just going to change the layout a little bit so that I can manage it a little better and it fits better on the screen. Right, so that's not what I need. Let me just change the This one looks like it. Control Z. All right, so you may have to do a little bit of tidying up if you're setting up something as fancy as a room like this. Still looks a little bit off. But you can play with it and ensure that you tidy it up properly. And then I'm just making it a little bigger so that, all right. So still a little bit off, but we'll work with this for now. And so I have done this. What I would do is I just put it in slideshow view so that it's big enough. And then I would scan. So I'm just going to do a quick scan. So this is me testing it to make sure that it works. Yup, the Google Drive came up and I could see the rip. And then if I go over to the other one to make sure that the video works, yes, it shows me YouTube. So one of the things that you should always do as you're setting up your document that will have your QR codes, you ensure that you test it as you go along. All right. And then finished, you save this document. So I can save this as a PDF file. So let me save this as a PDF file. So I'm gonna call it sample lesson, and I'm going to save this as a PDF file. And what I'm going to do with that PDF file is I'm going to share it with you in the chat. I have no idea where it was saved, but let me see if I can find it easily. So let's go to the desktop. Let's see if it went into the folder, scan to learn folder, sample lesson. Yes. All right. And then of course, I could do that with my students. Class, you can easily do that. Share it in the chat with your students. You can project it on the screen, share it with your students. You upload it to the VLE, share it with your students. So there are so many different ways that you can share the information with your students. Any questions at this point? Any questions? Any comments? Is everybody okay?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yes, we are.
No, great, wonderful. So now that we have done all of that, how do we then open it? What do we say to students? Well, one of the things you need to say to them is that you can use the camera on your phone or on your mobile device. So you can it's and these are the popular ways. There are other ways that you can open. So you tell them that okay, open your camera on your device, whether it's your phone or your tablet. Select the rear facing option. So it's not selfie mode, all right? So they're not supposed to be seeing themselves. And then they're going to center the camera so that the QR code is right in the middle. Sometimes it picks it up before you actually center it, but most times you tell them center it and tell them to hold the phone steady or hold the device steady for a little bit, and then the notification will pop up. Once they click on the pop-up notification, it will open. Please remind them that they need to have the internet in order to do so. So that is if they are going to be using their mobile device, the phone or the tablet. There are other ways that they can actually open the QR code. So they can open the QR code by using apps. So they can go to the Google Play Store or to Apple Play Store, and they can look for QR code scanners and readers. And there are a number of them. There are so many of them. But what you can do is that while you go through, you look at the reviews, you look at the number of persons who have downloaded and given reviews. And the higher the review, the better app. And so you look for the app that is most appropriate, and you download it, whether it's for your Windows, your Android device, or your Windows computer, or an Apple computer. So these are the apps. And then the third way that you can access this information is by using the software. So there are different types of software that you can install on your computer, on your desktop. that allows you to read the information without you using your device, the camera on your device. So there are again, there are a number of them, but I've listed two here. Code 2, QR code, and then there is the desktop reader and generator for Windows. So all you need to do is download the software, follow the instructions about how to install it, and then you open it and use it accordingly. Some of them simply read, some of them actually create codes and read codes. So depending on the one that you download, you will want to take a closer look to see if it generates as well. If it generates as well, that is beautiful because it means that you don't have to be using one site to generate and one to read. You just have the same software to do both. Okay. Now, we have to ensure that we follow certain best practices. QR codes, you'll realize, well, QR codes was very popular some time ago, some 10 years ago. Then it died a natural death. Then it seems to be coming back into play. But whether or not QR code have become extinct in the general world, in teaching and learning context, we find that they're still very useful because students have become more mobile enabled. So you find more and more students have access to smartphones or phones with a camera, a mobile device with a camera. And you have to remind the students that in order for them to access this, they must have access to internet. So they need to ensure that they have access to Wi-Fi or data or something like that in order to access the information. Okay, so let's talk about a couple tips that we need to bear in mind when we're setting this up. One of the first things that I always say is that this is a tool. This is just another tool, another way that you can engage your students, another tool that you can add to your growing repository, but it is just a tool. The bigger it is, your QR code, the bigger you make it, the better, because you want your students to be able to capture the information well. Make it's usually squared, so you can make it like a 3 by 3 inches or a 2 by 2, but make sure that it is as large as possible, not overwhelmingly big so that it scares us away, but make sure that it is legible enough so that the students can scan it quickly without having too much of an issue. um, Make sure that the instructions that you put on the QR code are very brief, simple, straight to the point. So you may have noticed that in my museum that I had set up, it said game-based learning in the Caribbean, which is the name of the course. And then it had Bartle player types, which is the name of the lesson. And then for each of them, it had just a little bit of information. So it says, scan to watch the video. After you finish, collect your card. So make sure that your instructions are short but are clear so that the students can understand. So you scan to access the workshop or scan for the workshop. As much as possible, provide students with additional details outside of the QR code. So you don't want the QR code to look like a paragraph and then the image is so small that the students can't access that. Okay. If you are setting this up in the VLE and you're using different pages, make sure that the pages link to each other. All right. So make sure that whatever it is you're doing, it is clear that the students can access them. And then, of course, you're going to test the QR code. So you can test it with your app, test it with the software, test it with your phone, ask somebody else to test it. Now, sometimes when we copy links or when we put information, there's something broken or the pages take so long to load. And so you need to know this before you share it with your students. And speaking of that, when you test it, if your video takes forever to load, it means that the same thing is going to happen to the students. So make sure your videos are clear, that you compress it, that if you only want students to see like 5 minutes of a 20 or a 30-minute video, that you crop the video. And there are some free software that you can use to edit videos. And of course, if the video isn't yours, you're going to make a note that this was done. Okay. Make sure that the students um, back to the QR code itself. Make sure that when you create the QR code, you use the kind of contrast that makes it easy to see the QR code. So QR code monkey allows you to have your plain black. Don't put that black QR code on a dark blue background. Put it on a white background. If you're using a gradient and your gradient is say black and yellow, don't put it on a yellow background because it's going to be hard to see the yellow gradient. Okay, so think about the kind of contrast. If your QR code is black, put is dark in color, put it against a light background. If your QR code is light in color, put it against a dark background so that the students can see that. If you're using physical QR codes, meaning you print them out, make sure that they're large enough so the students can simply hold the phone up or the device up at eye level and scan to get that. Now, remember that despite the fact that we're living in an era where students have, a number of students have mobile devices, not every student has a smartphone or have a tablet. And so one of the things, or they may have a phone and the camera not working properly. So one of the things that you need to bear in mind is that you can also provide students with some kind of alternative access route. Make sure that there's another way that they can get the information and not just scanning it. So you may have seen that when we send out our posters from the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, we have the QR code and then we also give you the URL, meaning the website address. You should do this as well for your students. So give them the code, but also give them an alternative route. So you can either say that they can come by to collect the information, or they can use this link to access the information, or they can use the QR code. Okay, so make sure that your students have options. And when you're setting up the QR codes, use them for quick focus tasks. Remember that the QR is the quick response aspect of it. So you may want to give them a short video for demonstration purpose, a quick explanation, maybe a feedback explanation, which is in audio format. You may want to set up a quick survey or a quick poll. You may want to give them a hint for a scavenger hunt activity. You may want to use it for a link to a demonstration and a diagram which demonstrates something. Okay, so you need to ensure that whatever it is that you're using your QR codes for, they are focused activities. Don't just put a QR code on for the sake of putting QR codes on. And if you're using them in face-to-face classes, ensure that the QR codes encourage movement. So put them at different places and let them move around. So you're ensuring that the blood flows as well, and you're ensuring that kind of interactivity. The students are moving around. So you place your clues at different points in the room and tell the students that they'll have to move around to get the information if this is in a face-to-face class. All right. And then always ensure that your QR code leads to resources that have to do with your learning outcome for that particular lesson, or to the activity. So make sure that your QR code links to the task or to the resource that you want the student. So the QR code is simply delivering the students to, or carrying the students to this particular point, and then the activity should be there. So what should they do after they scan the activity? Okay, how does this particular activity or resource support the learning outcome that I have set up for the class? Does scanning provide additional useful, productive information for the student? Are you just doing it for doing its sake, or does it provide the students with information that they will need? So ensure that when you set up your QR codes, it aligns with the learning outcome and that it has a clear purpose. Now, we spoke about using it for engaging our learners and motivating them. So remember that if you're going to use it for the first time, first impressions always count. So make sure you think of different ways that you can use the QR code. So you can probably use a mystery theme or overtone. Scan to discover the truth behind, something like that. Or if you're going to make it more playful, you can say, find all the codes to unlock the challenge, or to find the true answer behind what of you. Or you can give the students a choice. You can say to them, select either of these two or QR code to decide what it is you want um, to explore. So don't just say the reading is here, scan the QR code. Make it interesting. You want to engage the student. You want them to come on board, be amazed, remain amazed. So ensure that you strategically you use the appropriate tone. And of course, it depends on your students. So you will know who your students are. But as you do so, try not to overuse the QR codes. You don't put a QR code on everything. It is supposed to be something that's special that your students look forward to. So don't just put a QR code on everything. Scan to see the lesson, scan to see revision, scan to see who came out, scan to see what's happening next week, scan to see the learning outcome. So make the scanning be something that the students look forward. Make the QR codes be on things that are interesting, that are interactive, that sort of thing. So I wanted to add that. And then other ways that you could probably think of using your QR codes would be like your exit ticket. After you finish, you want to find out exactly what the students have learned. You can set up a Google form, do a QR code that links to that. So the students can respond. They can respond anonymously, and you can still get your information. You can do a QR code to Padlet. We have done Padlets, and you know the beauty of Padlet. So you can do a QR code, so the students go to the QR code and you have them doing all kind of things. You can do a QR code to, I guess, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we are limited only by our imaginations. You can set up a QR code so students can engage in that metacognition, so they can think through things. So it can be a reflective exercise for our students. So you can set up a code that takes them to a point that has probably a rubric, a checklist, a Padlet where they can write questions, a journal activity, so many different things that you can do with your QR codes. Okay, what I would do, encourage you to do is with the use of generative AI, you can also get ideas in how you could set up your document, how you could lay out the ideas of how you can organize the information that makes it interesting. And then when you have done so, you can then generate your code, make your link to it, share it with your students, and enjoy the process. All right. One of the things that I always tend to say when you come to sessions like these is that start small. So don't start with a room as I did. I've been doing this for a little while. So don't start with a museum that has all these different parts. What you could do is just start with one document, one Word document that you have different things on it, and then you put your QR code that leads to the activity. Okay, so you may have a summary of notes, and then you put the QR code with an activity, but start small. All right. Think about the learning outcome. Think about what it is you wanted the students to do. And remember that not all our students have full access to technology all the while. So if you are going to put something up for them to do the QR code scanning, also ensure that you have the URL or that you have somewhere that they can get the physical. So you give them options. And remember that our students are not just young students all along. So the older persons I have found tend to shy away from the scanning. The younger ones will scan, tend to. And so you want to ensure that nobody is left behind. You're also providing with the website address if you're sending a website address or the link. And then of course you can tell them that there is a physical. But this is what QR codes have to offer. They remain potent. They are carriers. So you can use them to make links to your resources, to your activities, and you can do so creatively and get the students involved. And that is it from us today. Any questions, any comments on how we could use QR as a light version of augmented reality for our students? Any questions? I'll take questions now, just before we wrap up.
Michelle, no question. Just to say, it was very clear, and I learned a lot. I've never applied it yet, but I
Ah,
definitely will be doing so. Thank you.
if you do so, you can send us a note to say I've tested it. This is how my students. What did I use to set up my museum?
All right, thank you.
No problem. But I'm coming to you, Sharon. Back to answering you. If you do so, let us know. And if you do so, collect the students' responses. You can get a paper out of it. But apart from getting a paper out of it, what else you can do is that you can also track to see how well it worked, what aspects didn't work as well, what aspects worked beautifully, and how you can improve on it or what you need to remove, that sort of thing. What did I use to create my museum? I tend to do my best work in PowerPoint. So what I did was for this one, I actually got an empty room, Sharon. So in PowerPoint, I got an empty room. I went into free pick and I asked it for a museum interior. And then I got different images that I made at different points. And then I created my QR code because I had my documents on a website in my Google Drive. I created the link, drop it in. And then I did a little bit of adjustments in terms of how it was it projected. So some of the things leaned a little bit. So um, I use the format. I mean, you would have seen me trying to do that earlier. Hold on there. I'm gonna just share back. No problem. Um, all right. So even things like this is I went to the website and I copied this and I just resized it and put it here. And so I tend to create the little pieces in PowerPoint and then set it up. So if you have the concept, it's just a matter of deciding what exactly it would look like. And I do my work in PowerPoint. There are those who do it in Publisher. There are those who have fancier tools that they use. But it's just where you do it. You can do it in Word as well and organize it accordingly and save it as a PDF. Anything else? All right. So we have an evaluation. Yes, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, great. So Mr. Williams, Dominic has just shared the evaluation. We want to hear from you. We want to know what we're doing well, or what you would love to see, what we need to improve on. And so we always share our evaluation with you and we ask you please to fill it out. And so we leave you here. Thank you very much, Dominic. Thank you very much for coming out, colleagues. And I do wish for you a good rest of the week, but I also hope that you try this. It's another tool. Okay, but remember that's all it is. It's a tool. It's not about the tool that we use, it's about the teaching and learning. It's about the engagement aspect. So that must come first, and then the tool that we use to engage the student be secondary. So think about it. Think about whether or not this is something that your students would use, that your students would engage, whether or not this is something that can help you give the kinds of feedback, responses, reaction, resources, activities to your student without you doing it multiple times. Okay? I am Michelle Stewart McCoy. Thank you very much for coming. Enjoy the rest of the day. And please do the evaluation.